We usually start with a Texans question for John McClain, and we ask about the Cowboys. But with his wife being a huge Washington Commanders fan, John, is she pumped up over Jayden Daniels?
Well, are you?
Yeah. Craig,
Of course you
we're
are.
thrilled. Yeah, thrilled.
How could anybody who's been a fan of the Redskins / football team / Commanders not be a fan of what they've seen? And I think we've talked about this, that when Cliff Kingsbury, he interviewed with the Raiders, I think he interviewed with the Bears, he interviewed with the Texans as an advisor to first-time play caller Bobby Slowick last year. And then when he came to Washington, why wouldn't the Bears have hired him to coach Caleb Williams, who he called plays for last year? Instead, they went with Shane Waldron, and he went to Washington. Of course, Jayden Daniels, I know it's early, but the guy is so good, so exciting, fearless, and Kingsbury's doing a great job. There's two things Daniels is going to accomplish. He's going to help Kingsbury get another head coaching job, and he's going to help Washington get a stadium in the district down by RFK, and it's going to be known unofficially as the house that Jayden built, because people in the district right now are so pumped, just like you are, just like my wife is, because of what they witnessed last night. And I like Cliff Kingsbury. I don't know him well, but I've known him a while, and I'm really happy for him. And so I thought it was so exciting. As you know, what that franchise went through with Daniel Snyder is unprecedented in NFL history, other than Donald Sterling maybe in pro sports history. And then to get Josh Harris as a predominant owner, get a new coach in Dan Quinn, and then your new quarterback, and it being so exciting. I like it when the storied franchises like Washington, Detroit, Cleveland, when they do well. I think it's better for the league. It's not good for the league if the Cowboys have gone from first to worst, which right now is very possible if they lose to the Giants on Monday Night Football. But I don't know if they can sustain it in Washington.
Yeah.
Probably not.
Yeah.
But it's certainly fun. And of all the standard that C.J. Stroud set last year for rookies is unfair to expect others. But right now he raised those expectations to the sky-high level.
John, the Texans lost. They struggled to move the ball on the Vikings. Sam Darnold looks like he's a different player altogether. And Kevin O'Connell just kind of working miracles up there in Minnesota. Was that not so much an indictment of the Texans, but maybe a showing of what Minnesota is able to do?
Well, first of all, Sam Darnold's doing what Baker Mayfield, Geno Smith, other quarterbacks have done. They bounce around till they land in a good situation with a good head coach, with a good offense, good offensive coaching, stability from ownership. And that's what's happened with Darnold. And he's going to have this one season. If he stays healthy, I have no reason to think he won't keep playing well. And he played really well because the Texans got him, sacked him 4 times, hit him a lot. He threw some passes right as he was getting hit, kind of like Shadur Sanders. And I think that Minnesota is legit, but they ran the ball not great. One guy had 39-yard run. Other than that, they would have given up 70-something yards and 2 carries on the other carries. And so, but Darnold and Texans couldn't cover Justin Jefferson in the first half. They made adjustments at halftime, and he didn't catch a ball in the second half. But when you got an offensive lineman like left tackle Laramie Tunsil, who commits 5 penalties and has 10 for the season in 3 games and 1 that was declined, it's unbelievable. 2 illegal procedures. He's had 2 illegal procedures in each of the 3 games. And he's had this problem his whole career. But then he didn't line up right 3 times, and then the other one was declined. So when you got an offensive line that is getting pulverized by the run, and then you have to abandon the run, they're lucky C.J. Stroud wasn't hurt. And Stroud had 3 completions for 60 yards called back because of penalties, on 2 on the offensive lineman and 1 on a tight end.
What did you think about what Maalik Willis was able to do against the Titans?
Phenomenal, Craig. Phenomenal. And there's 2 things. Amy Adams Strunk, the owner of the Titans, may have already gone back to her head coach, Brian Callahan, or GM, Rand Cawthorn, and said, now, tell me again why we didn't bring back Derrick Henry for $8 million when we were spending a fortune of our cap money on other players, and why did we trade Maalik Willis and keep Mason Rudolph? Well, that's a great example of what you can do when you go to a team that has great coaching like Matt LaFleur does there. They ran the ball great. Right now, he's leading Willis in 2 starts. He's leading the NFL in average per carry and average per pass attempt, and he may not play another down.
You know, it seems like to me, not always, but the Packers are like maybe the 49ers or the Rams and a couple of other teams that no matter what happens to them, whoever is available, they don't blink. That doesn't mean it doesn't lead to a loss or 2 because you could lose a superstar, but the Packers seem to be kind of that team.
That's a great point, David. You know, they're a lot different than they were when Aaron Rodgers was there and everything centered on him. They've been able to run the ball this year. They've been able to play defense, and they've been able to show they're capable of winning that division over, I guess, Minnesota now. In Minnesota, Green Bay, I think I don't think the Bears are a contender to win that division. But it's going to be interesting when Jordan Love comes back, and I don't think they'll rush him. There's no need to rush him, so we don't know if he'll play in the next game or the next one, but he's coming back, and hopefully he'll play well. And Maalik Willis, let's see, I think he'll have 1 more year under his contract, but if that's all he plays, he's going to have a great tape to help him make some money.
John, the Cowboys are terrible, and most people saw this coming except, I think, the Cowboys. And I don't see them all of a sudden learning how to stop the run, getting better at defensive tackle, going out and making a trade for a running back, even though it was obvious you needed one before the season starts, because they kind of feel like they like their roster the way it is because Jerry kind of got set in his ways here. What's the future like for them?
Well, everybody knows, Paul, going back to last offseason, they needed to find a running back. Derrick Henry lives there in off-season. He works out there. They never even called his agent. And then Jerry Jones said he was too expensive. Mike Florio went on and detailed how they could have signed him for $8 million a year, what they could have done moving around money. And it just, for whatever reason, they didn't call him and say, hey, what would it cost? And it would have cost $8 million. And now they don't have a running game. And they were blind to see what everybody else saw. But nobody saw them being the worst team in the NFL against the run. I think I saw this stat that it's the most yards they've given up after 3 games rushing since 63 or something like that. But they got no hope on their running game, and that just puts more pressure on Dak Prescott. And that's the last thing Dak needs. And I saw today where CeeDee Lamb has the least amount of separation on his yards. So I don't know what's up with him either, but boy, you know, Jerry Jones has not fired a coach in season since Wade Phillips in 2010. But if they lose to the Giants and they've gone from first to worst, I don't think Jerry's going to put up with it. But I'd be very careful if I'm Mike Zimmer, and of course he would take it over. But if you can't run because you don't have the talent, you can't run. They have done their team, their fans, a terrible injustice by not finding a running back when they're out there everywhere.
You mentioned Mike Zimmer. Craig, go ahead. You go ahead.
No, I have a non-NFL question.
You mentioned, I
have a non-NFL question, so go ahead.
You mentioned Mike Zimmer. You're not going to bring up Boulder, are you?
Oh, yeah, I'm going to.
Yeah, I hope you do.
Yeah,
I'm going to.
You mentioned Mike Zimmer, who after the game against a very bad team in Cleveland, everyone thought it was a genius, a fresh look from what Dan Quinn did. I'm not saying he's a heck of a coach, But one of the things that I always respected about how the Cowboys played with Dan Quinn, and yes, they had their weaknesses and some of them similar, is that it looked like the players would run through a damn brick wall that was on fire with a gasoline suit on. And it looks like they're doing that a little bit in Washington. Again, it's early. They could end up 4 and whatever. But is Zimmer at fault in any way because of what's going on?
Well, you're right, because number one, Dan Quinn is the players' coach. Everybody loves Dan Quinn, the players, the media, front office people, and now they're going to love him even more after that game last night and the start they have right now, where Zimmer's your old-time drill sergeant who I don't know if he's changed since he left the Cowboys for Minnesota when he was a defensive coordinator, and he was a good one. But sometimes you got to adapt to players today. Don't know if he has, don't know if he's trying to make his system fit them or them fit his system, which is recipe for disaster, unless you got a couple of drafts and free agent periods to do it. Like y'all, I'm shocked that they're this bad against the run. We knew that Baltimore was going to run on a lot of yards because they always run on everybody, but nobody saw what was coming with New Orleans. And then New Orleans just got humiliated and by the Eagles. So it's amazing right now how bad things are with the Cowboys. And can you imagine what you guys will be talking about on Monday? If the Cowboys, Tuesday, if the Cowboys lose to the Giants, because Monday, hopefully you're talking about that Baylor upset of BYU.
It's actually a Thursday game. Is it the game with the Giants on Thursday?
Yeah, it's Thursday night.
Might be the best thing that happened to them to get the stench out and go play the Giants, who, of course, they own the Giants. They do. Craig, go ahead. Do the do.
All right, John. It looked like Baylor was well on their way to a fantastic effort in Boulder. Great plan against the Buffs, and unfortunately, the execution just wasn't there when it needed to be in various ways. Your thoughts on that debacle and that heartbreaker in Boulder, Colorado?
Well, first of all, I thought your dad and Paul were out of their minds to pick Baylor to win a game. And I thought you were the only sane one out of your threesome because you picked Colorado. But then I started thinking, boy, David and Paul were going to look pretty smart. And I tell you what, Baylor's so much better than it was last year. I mean, there's no doubt. Dave Aranda's a good defensive coach, and Sawyer Robertson, he's so much better throwing the ball than Finn, and that injury may turn out to be a positive thing for Baylor. But what bothered me, and I've been watching Baylor football since I was a Cub Scout in 1960 when we went to see the first game of Colorado. And I can't remember any game, including the 63 7-3 loss at UT, that bothered me more than this one because it was national TV, because it was the prime times. And it would have meant so much to Aranda and the Baylor program to pull it out on national TV and to beat Shadur Sanders and Travis Hunter. He's one of the greatest players anybody's ever seen. And what bothered me was the field goal looked like he was trying to kick it to Grand Junction instead of between the uprights, like a big snowstorm came in and moved it. And then the defense at the end, the kid being open in man coverage and it bouncing off his chest, I wondered, had he caught the ball because he jumped and gone down, clock would have run out. Everybody just assumes he jumps, he catches it, and he runs over the goal line. But the other thing, when you play a Hail Mary, you rush 3 and you drop everybody. And if the quarterback can get the ball in the end zone, you put your guys just inside the goal line, your other guys outside, and you tell them, knock the ball down. 8 guys are back. No way you can have man coverage. So they blew that. What bothered me, the safety in the end zone closest to the receiver in the corner, he reacted too late. He ran over. And then he didn't dive to try to knock it away. He just ran over. And then I felt so bad on the fumble, but man, what a great play by Travis Hunter. And hopefully Baylor can bounce back. I think playing BYU is good. I watched BYU win their game Saturday night. But this Baylor team is going to win some games. And right now, there's no great team in the Big 12. People talk about Utah without Cam Rising. They're going to lose some games. So I'm not saying Baylor's going to win the Big 12. I'm just saying they're going to probably win enough to keep Dave Aranda's job.
Thank you very much, John
Thank
McClain.
you, guys. Thank you, Bears.